Hello everyone, I'm Miguel and I'm presenting this abstract on behalf of my colleagues, members of this CEPEF4 team. First of all, I would like to thank the AVA organizers in Dublin to give us the opportunity to present our abstracts in this format. Thank you very much. It is well known that there is higher anesthetic-related mortality in horses compared with other species, and these are overall mortality rates coming from the CEPEF study in small animals, and these numbers are from the CEPEF4 study by Johnson and colleagues. CEPEF coming from the confidential inquiry into perioperative equine fatalities. This study from 2002, as you can see, for instance, broadly, the anesthetic mortality is about 10 times more than the one in dogs. But of course, before 2002, there were many studies trying to find numbers and try to say which are the percentages in mortality in horses. So there were many studies, most of them retrospective and single centers with numbers no higher than 2000. The one with higher numbers was the first version of the CEPEF study, and also was a prospective and multi-center. Also after 2002, again, most of the studies were retrospective, single center. Highest number was around 18,000 cases. So if we focus on the CEPEF2 in the study in 2002, that was the largest observational study with more than 40,000 cases, and it's actually the biggest number until today. Cases collected from more than 60 clinics and a period over 6 years. That study was interesting because gave us information about why the horses were dying. So 1/3 approximately due to cardiac arrest or cardiovascular collapse. Another third deaths happening in the recovery box, like fracture and myopathy, and approximately another third about other complications, for instance, abdominal, central nervous system, respiratory, etc. It's important to say that these mortality rates are from the time of anesthesia and within a period of 7 days afterwards. Also gave us information about which were the most commonly used anesthetics, and also which variables were associated with higher or lower risk of mortality. For instance, age group, different periods of age groups, operation types, type of surgery, time of surgery, etc. So the question is, where are we now? And this question was tried to be answered by Alex Dodgell and Polly Taylor in this review article in 2016, where they concluded that we are still a long way from greatly reducing the mortality associated with equine anesthesia. Yes, we use better monitoring, better support of the cardiovascular and respiratory system. We have better teaching programs, more sophisticated protocols, etc. But we still lose horses after anesthesia that we would not lose if the horses were not anesthetized. So the question is now, is there any need for an update? And it was in 2013 that one of our co-authors from Zurich Regula tried to address that in this editorial, and she mentioned they conclude actually that yes, okay, the most recent multi-center perspective is now more than 10 years, so saying yes, probably we know to do something about that. So this is why we created this team in order to perform a multi-center prospective study 20 years after the CEPEF2, in order to evaluate equine perioperative mortality rate and also to detect factors associated with an increase or either a reduction in the risk of death. We have a good networking. For instance, in the AVA, we have twice a year scientific meetings. Actually, Dublin was meant to be the first AVA meeting where we were presenting our study. Hopefully, in the next ones, we will be able to give you some updates about it. But of course, there are other scientific organizations, nationals and internationals, that have a shared interest in equine mortality. Of course, a big difference compared with 20 years ago are the development of new technologies. Now we can have an interactive communication via different apps, email, Skype, etc. We can also interactively collect the data and simultaneously analyze it with different statistical softwares. Also, we can use similar methodologies than other studies. For instance, one of the members of this team is already working in an aesthetic-related mortality study in dogs and cats, and he collected already more than 40,000 cases. He presented his preliminary results in the last AVA in Ghent in 2019. So with that, we are aiming to perform this cohort observational, analytical, longitudinal, and prospective study, collecting horses and donkeys from clinics all over the world that went under general anesthesia and standing surgeries for more than 15 minutes. And also we aim to record the fatalities happening in a period of 7 days. How to send information is relatively easy. Of course, we have a questionnaire that I will show you in the next slide. We need to install Adobe Reader in our smartphone, tablet, computer, fill in the information that will take you 2-3 minutes, and then click send, and that will be automatically sent to an email of our team, and from that it will go directly to an Excel file, and later on will be analyzed with our statistical software. So this is how our questionnaire looks like in an A4. If we go more in detail, in the first line you can give the information of the institution, if the anesthesia was performed in the hospital or under field conditions, the date, and also the case number. The case number that will go from 1, 2, 3, etc. from each institution. And the important thing here is that we will not take any information of the horse or the owner. Information about who did the anesthesia, it was a diplomate or resident or an intern, since which year is being a diplomate or resident, etc. Information about the horse or a donkey, male, female, age, body weight, ASA classification, information about the procedure, type of surgery, and also the type of the protocol, total intravenous anesthesia, partial intravenous anesthesia, standing sedation, etc. Type of monitoring, what did we use for monitoring, and the different drugs for the premedication, induction, maintenance, CRI, and postoperative period. Also the information like the type of induction, if we use local regional techniques, fluids, which ones, oxygen, did we mechanically ventilate the patients or not, different complications, emergency drugs if they were used, and also information about the recovery, free, with drops, number of attempts, if the horse died or not, and if it died in which part. Also, we will have a section with comments where we will be able to write any information that you wanted to share, but you couldn't fill in the questionnaire. Of course, if you want and you get in contact with us, we'll provide you with some instructions to fill in properly the questionnaire. The data will be analyzed with the statistical software R. We will perform a univariate analysis where we will compare mortality between the classes. Then if the p-value was less than 0.1, then the variables will be used to build a binary logistical regression. And then if the p-value is less than 0.05, then the variables will be considered significant. This is how we can present the results. Actually, this is coming from the results in dogs. So this is a forest plot. In the x-axis, you can see the odds ratio value, and then in the y-axis, the different variables. So which is obvious here in the right side is that the higher the ASA classification, the higher the risk of death. Also, there is a higher risk of death in the thoracic, abdominal and orthopedic procedures in dogs. And also we'll go into the left part. We can see that the use of local regional and anesthesia is associated with less mortality. Which is very important for here is the data quality control, and this is why also we are asking a bit for volunteers, people that want to help us, that will be ambassadors, to produce a proper recording, and also to contact with local clinics around their institutions that, you know, maybe local practices we will never reach them. It is essential that all the horses and donkeys are included, so it's no sense if we just if a certain clinic is only sending the death cases. When everybody needs to send all the cases as much as possible, and also to have a proper follow-up for 7-day mortality, and for that a good communication with clinicians is essential. So where are we now? Basically, we are waiting for AVA ethical committee approval. We are ready to recruit volunteers, so if you want to help us, we are more than welcome, and we will get in touch with you. And we also think that this will be good also to create a network for further equine research in other topics. So to conclude, we can say that CEPEF4 will give us information about the current situation in equine anesthesia and analgesia in the world. Also, it may reveal factors associated with mortality today, and will provide information for owner consent and insurance policies. And as some of you know me, and I like history, this is something that Winston Churchill said somewhere in 1942 after an important win. So he said basically, now this is not the end, it is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. So hopefully this is the end of the beginning. We created now the CEPEF4 team, and we are able to work further. You can find all the information in this website we have created, also with this code. And of course, we are more than welcome. We are open to for new ideas, for your suggestions, and things to improve. This is all the literature we used for this presentation. And of course, this is the nice place where I used to go on holiday, and normally I still go in the summer. Thank you very much for your help, and we are more than welcome if you want to participate and join us. Thank you.